Chris, did you see May 7th? Naoya Inoue, Stephen Fulton. It's official. It's official. It's official.
Did I see? Of course I did. This is something that we've been talking about for so long. It's exciting news. I think I was geeked immediately when I saw it on Instagram, and I don't know if I sent it to you right away, but because I knew you see it. You always see everything before me anyway. I send you things. I'm like, why did I even do that? I know you saw it. You live on the Twitter sphere of the boxing world. But yeah, this is something we've been talking about for months, and it's a fight that a lot of people didn't think it was going to happen because Stephen Fulton was moving up. As Inoue was moving up, and I said it. We can go back through the archives. I thought this fight was going to happen, and now we're here. And I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's a perfect time, and it's a very interesting fight. We're gonna break it down a lot as we get closer to it. But with the boxing world should rejoice because this is a fantastic matchup and a fight that's really matters.
This is a fight that you can't say enough good things about it. Sometimes we struggle to find the good things, the silver linings in some of these fights and some of the news that comes out of the boxing world. This right here is everything that's pure about boxing. This is best versus best. This is undefeated fighters. These are fighters taking risks. These are fighters moving up in weight. These are fighters going across the world into uncharted territory or places that they wouldn't dream to go in Fulton going over to Japan. This represents all that is good with boxing. Like you said, Chris, I do agree. Like I honestly didn't think it was going to happen. I thought the promotional games were going to get in the way of this. Stephen Fulton is one of the PBC's brightest stars. He is the one guy that you can build around. So I said, no way will he jump over and potentially fight on ESPN Plus. No way would Heyman or PBC or all the guys that are on the PBC side allow for such a thing. But no. Fulton really pushed for this fight. He really wanted to go over there. And you look on the other side of things. Naoya Inoue, jumping up to 122, a new weight class for him. This will be his fourth weight class. And is he taking a soft touch first? No. Is he taking on someone, let me get used to this weight? No, I'll just go ahead and take on the best at 122. Best versus best. I love this fight. There are good enough things to say about it.
100%. I agree with everything you said about this fight. The number one thing that's missing in sport today, aside from all the other stuff outside of the ring, the promotions, the networks, all the stuff that, the blockades for making these big fight matchups, the cross promotional issues, blah, blah, blah. The number one thing that's affecting this sport today is guys not daring to be great. This is an opportunity for these fighters to dare to be great for all the reasons that you just said. Jumping up in weight, not taking an easy touch, going right to the top dog around, staying in a weight class and putting your O on the line to fight this killer who's coming up. I mean, it's awesome. This is what boxing is all about. Two men daring to be great, really putting their records and their legacies on the line against each other, against the toughest match that can be made. This is a fighter's dream fight. I mean, from either man's perspective, these are the fights that we want. I say this all the time. A lot of people are like, oh, he's ducking, that guy's afraid of that. Get out of here. We're not ducking nobody. We want these big fights. We want to be in these legacy-style fights. Daring to be great is what it's about. And the fact that Stephen Fulton is not allowing anything to get in the way of that shows you that a lot of the power is in the fighters' hands, and we really can make these fights happen if they really want them. And Stephen Fulton really wants this fight. I think he believes in his skills and his ability and his timing for this fight. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great matchup. These guys aren't old. We got two guys in their primes who are matching up, and they match up in such a great way in terms of boxer versus puncher, or boxer puncher versus boxer. And primetime guys. This is awesome.
It's going to be May 7th. It's going to be early in the morning. That's the only one beef, I guess, with this fight. I love getting up early and watching. It's going to be on a Sunday morning this time. Not usually. Inoue's been fighting during the week. His last couple of fights, but it's probably like a 7 a.m. Eastern start. ESPN Plus. I'm pretty sure it's not a pay-per-view. That's a big win. Shout out to Stephen Fulton, like you said, and the PBC. Like, they get a lot of flack for their PBC is going to get in the way of this fight being made. They're never going to let one of their guys go and fight on whatever enemy across the street. But it just shows you, like you said, if the fighter wants it, they could make it happen. Same thing with Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. You'll hear this from Steven Espinosa in just a bit. Both guys really wanted that fight. They were not letting it slip away. I think that was the case with Fulton. I think he's thinking right now is my time. Like I'll go after this guy in his first fight at 122. I'm on a roll. I've had 4 or 5 great performances in a row now. I'm in the prime of my career. This is when they should be fighting, not when they're on the north side of 30. But check this out from Stephen Fulton. I think he's the best 122-pounder in the world right now. His last 6 opponents, if you count Naoya Inoue, 102, 3, and 3. And the 3 losses were all Daniel Roman's. Well, 2 losses. He gave Daniel Roman his 3rd loss. So they all came from one guy. So for the most part, his last 5 opponents have all been undefeated, have all either been champs or guys or top prospects that he's had to knock off. So he's earned this shot, and he's earned this spot, Fulton, 100%.
Yeah, but it's not earning the shot, really. I mean, Inoue's coming up to fight him. It's Inoue's taking the shot at the champ. So he's earned the opportunity for sure. I mean, and to make some real money at the lighter weights, you have to make big fights. That's one of the reasons why the smaller weights get unfortunately looked over, is because we do have huge fights in them. We have for decades. Because there's the talent pool is not as great. The opportunity to make money is not that as often. So you get these guys making these big matchups where they're really risky fights because listen, that's how you get paid in these lower weight classes. Thank God these guys are getting paid more now, but this has got to be one of the biggest money fights that can be made south of 126.
Yeah, that's why it's in Japan too. I've gotten a few questions like, oh, why like Inoue always fights in Japan? He's one of the biggest stars there. It's money. Yeah. Like Stephen Fulton's like, I want to make the most money I possibly can.
I'll go over there.
So I will go to Japan, which is admirable for him, and it's also just makes business sense. I
did the same thing with Pacquiao in Macau. Why is Chris fighting in Macau? He's a ticket seller and does really well in New York. Why bring him over there? It's like, well, we make more money over there. So, yeah. And when we're talking about like these fighters who want to make this fight, I was that guy too. I was able to fight on so many different networks and so many different against different guys because I always wanted I didn't have a huge promotional team behind me to kind of block me from all that.
Yeah.
But listen, I wanted the fights. I could have easily said that, we can't make that fight happen because of this. No, I wanted the fights. I wanted those big opportunities. I wanted that big money. So it's cool to see these guys using their power, using their leverage.
How about Inoue? Let's get into him for a second. 25 pro fights. This will be his 20th consecutive title fight. That's absurd.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And now he'll be going up to his 4th weight class. He's won titles in 3 different weight classes. And what I really love about this fight is like the stakes are so high. And if Fulton wins, he beats a consensus top 3 pound for pound guy in Inoue, right? You got Inoue in your top 3? I think everyone can agree that Inoue is at least in the top 4, wherever you have these guys 1, 2, 3, 4.
He's got to be knocking on that gold, silver, bronze debate.
Exactly.
If you don't have him there, then
like,
he's at least knocking on it.
I'm not a big pound for pound guy, but what I do subscribe to is like the Mount Rushmore. Like, who are the top 4 fighters today? And I would say that Inoue is definitely one of them. So Fulton can knock off Inoue, which would be a huge win. Probably one of the better wins of the last 10 years on his home turf, with all Inoue's doing, knocking guys out left and right. Fulton catapults into the top 5, top 3, arguably. Then you go to the flip side to Inoue. Inoue, to me, it's consensus top 4, but to others, there is still a little bit of like, okay, who is this guy exactly? I wasn't familiar with the lower weights. I didn't watch a lot of his fights because those first 20 fights were all in Japan. Heard about him. Who was he beat? If he beats Fulton and he does it convincingly, let's just say he stops him, he's solidified, in my opinion, as number 1. So that right there, both guys can really cement themselves as greats of this era.
Yeah, it's going to be a super hard argument for casuals and people outside of the very, very tightest of the boxing circles, just because of all the things you said in terms of the lighter weight. People haven't really seen him that often. It's going to be hard for people to swallow the fact that you're going to bump the Crawford or Canelo and with this win here. So I'll definitely give you some pushback on that. But in terms of what he's done, what he's accomplished, and who he's going to be beating, Fulton's kind of tough because you got to look past the numbers. Unless you're a true boxing head, you may not know that much about Fulton or the guys that he's beaten in order to get here. His record obviously is undefeated, but it's not like one of those sterling records like Inoue where it's like 25-0 with 23 knockouts, and Fulton's not a power puncher like that. But if you look beyond those numbers and see the guys that he's beaten, especially in his last however many fights you just said, this does catapult Inoue. deep into that conversation of pound for pound greatness. Like number one.
This fight has a lot of buzz, man. I mean, this fight has a lot of. I think it's one of the most buzzed about fights in a long time. I don't. This isn't the ultimate sign of how big a fight is, but when I put it on anything about it on Twitter, the numbers are just flying because there's a lot of interest in it, and it's the right time, and it's has all the elements that we just gushed on over and over. In terms of the numbers, Fulton he throws a lot of punches. He's a volume puncher. Over his last 5 fights, it's 61 thrown, but in some of those, the Angelo Leo performance, the Brandon Figueroa performance, he was averaging like 90 punches around. I'm interested to see if he can do that against Inoue. I don't think he'll do that. I think he'll box.
You can't
more.
Do that with a puncher.
Right, he'll box more. Right, he's got to box more, and he's got to use his size and use his jab.
Yeah, I agree. Size is going to be big here, and size again. You got to look beyond the numbers. So Fulton, bigger man, been fighting at 22. Inoue's first fight fighting up to 22 in his 4th weight class. Fulton was on his way to 26, so he's going to be a really big 22.
Yep.
So he's almost like a tweener now between 22 and 26, because I think he would do very well at 26 as well. And I think even after this fight, if he decides to move up, which he probably will, he'll do very well at 26 unless we get a rematch situation. But so it's an extra big 22 pounder based on the fact that Inoue's coming up and Fulton is technically, coming back down because he was on his way up already. So, and when you got a guy who has the boxing skills and is tricky like Fulton is, I mean, that's the kind of style, and I've been saying this for months, that's the kind of style that would give the style of Inoue trouble. If he can deal with the power, which is a big if, because Inoue has atomic bombs for fists. This is a very, very interesting fight because of their style matchup, which is something we'll break down as we get closer to fight night.
Yeah, both fighters land over 40% of their power shots. Inoue is one of the most precise power punchers in all of boxing. He has one of the higher KO rates.
And devastating.
Yeah, one of the higher KO rates in all of boxing. Has literally every punch in the book. Goes over 6 jabs landed around, which is a lot in today's world in terms of jabs. It's everything. It's everything you want in a fight. Can't wait to dive into it even more. It's May 7th on ESPN+. This week.